So in a move that nobody expected, The Witcher 1 and 2 have now been updated to native ARM Apple Silicon Mac games by CD Projekt Red today. Now these are not new games at all, so The Witcher 2 released back in 2011 and The Witcher 1 released back in 2007. Both got their Mac ports in 2012, however these Mac ports were 32-bit only, so once Apple dropped 32-bit support, people were not very happy with the situation because the game that they had bought could no longer be played on any modern Mac, including every single M series Apple Silicon Mac. However, that's all changed today with the release of the new Mac ports of Witcher 1 and 2. So not only do we have updates for JIT memory and Apple's game controller framework, the game also gets updated support for macOS Ventura as well as M1, M2 and M3 chips too. So this comes as a free update. You don't have to purchase the game again if you already own it. You can get The Witcher 1 and 2 on the Mac App Store, Steam and also GOG.com as well. So firstly we're going to take a quick look at The Witcher 2 running on my M1 MacBook Air with 8GB of RAM and 8 GPU cores. When you launch the game you can change all the settings from this launch application. We have fairly comprehensive video and also control settings too. I tried running the game on the M1 at 1080p on ultra settings and it looks very choppy as you can see here. Bumping this game down to the high preset is a lot more playable, so that's what I've done. So despite the fact that this game has been updated to a universal binary, so it runs on Intel and Apple Silicon Macs as well, as far as I can tell this is an OpenGL game. I couldn't get the Metal HUD working and it didn't seem as optimized as it could be. However, it's refreshing to see that this game works with the controller. We have the controller prompts working too, and gameplay and combat feels responsive and satisfying. Well, as satisfying as any game that originally released in 2011 can feel these days. However, the port isn't perfect. For example, I couldn't command tab and also the Steam overlay was not working, so I couldn't see an in-game frame rate. Furthermore, there was some faces which just didn't render correctly. I'm sure that this was going to get fixed in the future. Maybe it's a particular graphics setting that I was using which is causing this, but it only happened very rarely, so I hope this doesn't affect gameplay for most people. Next, we're looking at The Witcher 1. So obviously this came out a long time ago, back in 2007. Game design back then was a little bit more rough and I really struggled to even get through the opening section of this game. So The Witcher 1 shares its game engine with Neverwinter Nights, the BioWare game. And the gameplay kind of feels very janky because the original engine was designed for this kind of top-down D&D type experience, and here it's been hacked together to make this sort of action RPG. So personally I only really played this for nostalgia purposes, however I think that The Witcher 2 is probably going to be a better game. So anyway, it's really cool to see that The Witcher 1 and 2 have been optimized for the Apple Silicon Mac, and CD Projekt really didn't have to do this. No one was expecting an update to these two games, and it really makes you think about what the actual purpose of updating these games is. Does this mean that other CD Projekt Red games, for example The Witcher 3, Cyberpunk 2077, will they get Apple Silicon Mac ports too? After all, these games all share the same game engine called the Red engine, and of course you can play the Windows versions of The Witcher 3 and Cyberpunk 2077 on a Mac using crossover. The reality is that the majority of the Witcher series of games is now playable natively on the Apple Silicon Mac. This includes Gwent, Witcher 1 and Witcher 2. Perhaps The Witcher 3 and the future Witcher 1 remake, are those going to be targeted for macOS as well in the future? So maybe this is the groundwork for porting these two games to the Apple Silicon Mac in the future, who knows? So anyway, it's really cool to see that CD Projekt Red have updated these Mac ports, especially when it seems like the trend is going the other way. For example, Valve did a pretty big update of Half-Life 1 recently. However, they neglected their own Mac port of Half-Life 2, which still lingers as a 32-bit application. So anyway, very cool to see these ports. Let me know what you think in the comments. Thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next video.